The American Civil War is over, and yes, the Union won. Men who went to war have started to return. Everything should be fine now. Not for you though, because the war has made you an orphan. You already lost your mother when you were born. Now you receive news that your father is not coming back. A bullet to the head, you heard. You're just 12. But somehow you feel old with gray hair. The night you got the news, you cry yourself to sleep. You dream of your father. You dream of the stories he told you about himself, about his failed attempt at gold mining in California and his long trek on the Oregon Trail. You also dream of the advice he always gave you before being drafted for war. The biggest fist wins. The bigger gun is king. Know who has it, or become it. That is the only way to be safe in these dangerous lands. It's almost like he's whispering it in your ears. Or maybe it's just you wishing it so. The next morning wakes you up to reality. It reminds you that you're still an orphan and alone. You have to find a job, and if there's one thing your grief-induced dream has taught you, it's that nobody becomes powerful by staying home. So you leave town the normal way. You sign on as a cowboy. White Horse Ranch needs bodies, and you're hungry for adventure. Close enough. You heard that cowboys are free, drifters, feared men that do what they like and go wherever they want. You believe this will be your key to becoming relevant and feared. What you actually get is a front row seat to the Wild West outside towns. But first, you learn about cows. You learn tracking, reading dirt like a book, hoof prints, broken glass, fear trails. Then intimidation, how to sit tall in the saddle, how to stare without blinking, how to let a man know you're willing to hurt him even if it hurts you too. You're taught how to scare native families off land that used to be theirs, how to chase them if they take cattle to eat. You're told it's business, protection, order. You learn how to deal with rustlers too, how to escalate without warning, and how threats work better when you behave a little crazy. You also learn that violence isn't emotional out here. It's procedural. You don't hate the people you hurt. You barely think about them at all. All you think about is yourself and staying alive. After all, out here, cowboys die young. Sometimes stupidly, sometimes quietly. By the time you realize this life has no future, you're already 15 and too old to learn a new trade. A few months later, you're riding for White Horse Ranch when you see something in the corner of your eye. A lone rider, slumped in the saddle, heading up into the mountains like he's running out of places to hide. You look away. Seen too many instances like that to know he probably offended the wrong people. For a second, it feels like nothing. Then, your memory clicks. You've seen that face before. It was nailed to boards. Inked beneath it was the word wanted. There was a number too, big enough to matter. Bigger than 2 years of your cowboy wages. Bigger than anything you've ever seen at once. You look around and see that nobody else pays him any mind. You tell yourself it's fate. You tell yourself it's justice. But mostly, you tell yourself you can't be a cowboy forever. So late that night you follow him. You track him the way you were taught. Slow, patient, invisible. Hours later, you see his fire by a creek. He's asleep, boots still on, rifle just out of reach. Sick, exhausted, probably half dead. So you creep close enough to smell him. You pull out your knife. You want to avoid using your gun at any costs. Guns echo, guns smoke, guns announce you to the mountains. And you've learned that accuracy is a lie men tell themselves. So you take a deep breath and burst into action. The knife goes in once. Quiet, clean, too close to miss. He waits just long enough to look at you. There's no screaming, just eyes wide and focused, like he's carving your face into memory for later. Then, he's gone. You don't feel triumph. You just feel relieved. Because the truth is, you were scared down to your boots. You haul his body on your horse in the dark and ride back to town, rehearsing the moment. The handover, the coins, your coins, the nod of respect. You smile like a kid at the thought. You ride into town and go straight to the sheriff's office. It's in the middle of the night, so no one actually sees the body. You walk to the office door and knock. A man comes out. You see another man by the window pointing his gun at you, so you raise your hands to show you're unarmed. They must be the sheriff's deputies, you think. He asks you what you want. You tell him you want to cash in a bounty. He laughs and asks if you're a bounty hunter. You say no, but show them the body. Immediately you're tackled and arrested. Cold bars, hard bench. Murder, they say. Not a hero, not a hunter. Just a boy who doesn't understand how killing actually works. The next day, the sheriff meets you in the cell. He tells you what you did wrong, and none of it is moral. He tells you that killing a wanted man doesn't make you righteous. It makes you reckless. You've no license to kill, no badge, no warrant. He explains to you that a bounty isn't permission. It's an invitation, and only certain men are allowed to accept it. Governors issue rewards. Railroads post notices. Sometimes banks do. But collecting them requires proof, witnesses, paperwork, and authority. You have none of that. You brought in a body and a story no one can verify. So they call it murder. The sheriff looks at you closely. Not furious, not impressed. Just studying you like a tool he didn't know he owned yet. He asks how you tracked the man, why you chose a knife, how long you have been riding. You answer truthfully. He sighs, then explains the real problem. He tells you that if the town learns a 15-year-old cowboy did what the sheriff couldn't, his authority cracks. Men will stop lowering their voices. Hands will start to drift back toward holsters, and the respect the entire town has for him will start to evaporate. So he offers you a solution. He keeps the credit, tells the town he brought the outlaw down. He cashes in on the body, while you get a cut of the money. Quietly. Oh, and you also get a badge too. A deputy star, with paperwork that makes your killing acceptable. You don't hesitate, because standing in that office, staring at the man backed by the biggest outlaw gang in the Wild West, the United States of America, it finally clicks. You're not the biggest gun, but you're close enough now to touch the steel. So your life as a sheriff's deputy begins. You thought being a deputy meant movement, manhunts, dusty rides, showdowns that end clean. Reality proves otherwise. Bounty hunting turns out to be rare and mostly useless. The men worth money are mostly gone, already dead or protected by distance, paperwork, bigger guns, or someone richer than you. Most criminals aren't legends. They're drunks, thieves, and desperate men stealing horses to survive another winter. And none of them are worth the ink it takes to process them. So your days fill with paper, reports, statements, court summonses. You learn that violence isn't always dramatic. It can also be repetitive, tedious. You get tired of it quickly. You spend your days breaking up saloon fights between drunk men who will be drunk again tomorrow. You chase stolen horses across miles just to find out they were borrowed by someone related to the right family. You investigate rumors that lead nowhere. You escort prisoners to court, knowing most of them will walk free. Not because they're innocent, but because witnesses vanish, juries hesitate, and the law bends to the familiar. You also notice patterns. Some men get fines. Others don't make it home. You watch lynch mobs form outside the law and you're told not to interfere. Not your jurisdiction, the sheriff says. You've learned that order doesn't replace violence. It chooses it. And in the center of it all, the sheriff navigates it all effortlessly. He bends the law with a smile, trades favors to keep the peace, decides who matters and who doesn't. It is then you realize something uncomfortable. He's not powerful because he understands the law. He's powerful because he is the law. You spend 4 years as a deputy. During that time, the sheriff has been re-elected once. You also realize that winning the election doesn't always mean pleasing the townspeople. Sometimes pleasing the ranchers around town is more than enough. Also, years of being a deputy and breaking up saloon fights gets to you. People don't fear you the way you thought they would. Some still see you as a kid. Others see you as the sheriff's excuse for an errand boy. So at 20, you let it slip, just once, that the first outlaw wasn't really the sheriff's work, that the knife wound was your work, that the credit was borrowed. You don't boast, but you don't deny it either. So the rumor spreads anyway. And so, they start calling you the Outlaw Bane. Fear follows. Respect too. And for a while, you mistake it for safety. A year after the rumors spread, you're summoned for a case. You, the sheriff, and his other 2 deputies ride to meet the local cattle king. Cattle kings are ranchers with cattle and lands that seem to stretch endlessly. He wants the sheriff to investigate the theft of his cattle. You hear that the cowboys in charge were all killed during the theft. It reminds you a little of your past. As you ride, you notice something strange. The path ahead feels too deserted, too quiet. So you try to stop the others, but it's too late. Men jump out. It's an ambush. The ambush is sudden. Gunfire in the open. Horses screaming. Deputies drop before they understand what's happening. It ends almost as soon as it began. You survive. The sheriff does too, but not cleanly. He's wounded, furious, surrounded by bodies. He identifies them through the smoke. These men are tied to the outlaw you killed. They tracked you down. They came for revenge. Immediately he turns on you, says your mouth caused this. Your reputation, your ego, threatens to strip you of your badge, wash his hands of you. You realize the truth in that moment. He's about to throw you to the wolves, and without the sheriff's reputation, you wouldn't last long. So you act first. One shot, straight into the chest. He looks at you with shock. He can't believe it. And just like that, the biggest gun in town changes hands. You load the bodies onto horses and ride back into town before sunrise. Blood dried, story ready. You tell it clean. Outlaws ambushed you and you stood your ground. The sheriff didn't make it. Your reputation explodes overnight. Your feats are the talk of the town. By noon, you didn't just survive, you won. Men nod when you pass. Bartenders stop charging. The county commissioners arrive days later, already decided. On paper, they oversee the process. In reality, ranchers and businessmen settle it in back rooms. They don't want a thinker. They want a yes man. You campaign without saying much. You drink with voters, promise stability, use words like order and peace without defining either. You never explain what happened in detail. You don't have to. The results come in and you win. You're elected because you're famous, and fear is easier to use than hope. The badge works immediately. People obey before you finish speaking. Disputes end when you arrive. Guns stay holstered, voices lower. You use the power for order, and sometimes for yourself. You keep some of the taxes you collect for the county. You also sell criminals their freedom, after telling them not to show their faces in town again. You tell yourself that's the cost of keeping things quiet. After all, you have the biggest gun in town now. But sometimes, the gun feels heavy in your hands, and it has its downsides. There is no rest, no privacy, no backup. Every stolen horse, every drunk with a knife, every corpse in a ditch is now your problem. If it happens in the county, it wears your name. You chase small-time outlaws because they're what exists. Rustlers, deserters, men running from debts. The bounties are modest. The work is constant. You tell yourself this is efficiency, cleaning the edges before they rot. Most days are logistics. Riding miles for rumors, questioning men who lie badly, writing reports no one reads. And then comes the challenges. Men test you in doorways, hands hover near holsters. They want a story. They want to say they stood up to the outlaw Bane. One night after enforcing an eviction order, you encounter an ambush. Not clean, not heroic. Gunfire from the dark. You don't stand your ground this time. You run, and you survive. By morning, the story is bigger than the truth. They say you fought off 3 men alone, that you walked through bullets, that death missed you again. Your nickname grows, and that's when it clicks. Your reputation isn't protection anymore. It's bait. Outlaws come because of you now. Young ones want fame. Old ones want revenge. Every gunman thinks killing you will make him famous. Even some townspeople hate you for arresting their family and friends. Others for releasing the people they hate. You didn't become the biggest gun. You became the most visible one. And visibility out here is a death sentence waiting for a name. After that night, you stop riding out alone. You stop lingering in doorways. You stop standing in the open. You even delegate more authority to your deputies. You lock yourself inside the office more often. You sit behind the blinds with both pistols close, watching the street like it's a firing lane. Every new face tightens your grip. Every unfamiliar horse gets logged in your head. Every rumor feels like a countdown. You tell yourself this is caution, experience, survival. But the town calls it fear. And when the enforcer of order hides, order starts to wobble. Disputes don't end when you arrive anymore. That's because you don't arrive. So, saloon fights keep going. Outlaws notice this. Some become bolder. They test you openly. They lean in doorways, staring at the sheriff's office, smiling. Hands visible, mocking. They call you the outlaw Bane like it's a joke now. Fear was the thing keeping them away, and now that it's gone, they come in the droves. Soon, complaints travel uphill. Letters reach the county seat. Merchants say business feels unstable. Ranchers say you're absent and cattle rustlers are active. Judges say justice feels inconsistent. All this leads to you being summoned. Not arrested, not accused, just asked to explain yourself. They don't say it outright, but you hear it anyway. A sheriff who hides makes everyone nervous. So they give you one last task. Routine, administrative. Escort a prisoner transferred from another county. Drop him at court. Simple. Public. A chance to prove you're still steady. The man is nothing special. Quiet. Small time. The kind you see everywhere. You even wonder why the county wants him. His files say illegal discharge of a firearm. Nothing too serious. But you don't think too much about it. After all, you've got bigger troubles yourself. The next day, the carriage rattles down a narrow road. Trees press in, hooves slow. The horses start to act nervous. Almost immediately, your mind flashes to the day your life changed. The day you chose power over all. Then, history repeats itself. Men spring out with guns blazing. The first shot shattered wood. The second kills the horse. You reach for your gun out of habit. Big mistake. This isn't about reputation or legends. They didn't come for you. You're just in the way. The truth is, they're actually here for your package. You don't know, can't know, that he's a thread tied to something bigger. A deeper web. One of men who don't want fame. Men who just want him back. They take no chances. Pistols are pointed at you as lead tears through cloth, through bone, through all the rules you built your life around. You get no last speech, no redemption arc, just dirt and silence. By next month, another sheriff will wear your badge. The jail fills, the saloons stay loud, and the system keeps grinding men into order-shaped pieces. You weren't special. You weren't uniquely corrupt. You weren't uniquely brave. You were just a kid, shaped by a world that taught one lesson early and never let it go. Be the bigger gun, or learn to respect it. Your name survives briefly. A story, a warning, then a footnote. You spent your entire life learning one rule, and you died because you forgot it. There is always a bigger gun.